Hi there, welcome to Fantasy Hub. I'm Mia, your storyteller. Today's story is filled with heartache, discovery, and a twist you won't see coming. So let's begin.
You know that moment when your entire world shifts on its axis? When everything you thought you knew about yourself suddenly feels like a lie? Well, mine happened in a changing room, surrounded by ivory silk and the scent of jasmine perfume. When a woman I was supposed to be fitting for her wedding dress lowly unbuttoned my blouse instead. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Claire Powell, and 6 months ago, I was drowning. Not literally, though some nights it felt that way. My boutique, Eternal Elegance, was hemorrhaging money faster than I could count it. The divorce from Marcus had left me with half of everything, which sounds generous until you realize that half of debt is still debt. At 42, I found myself working 16-hour days, hunched over my sewing machine in the back room of my shop, surrounded by bolts of fabric that felt more like chains than dreams. The irony wasn't lost on me, a woman who'd sworn off love designing dresses for other people's happily ever afters. It was on one of those late nights when the streetlights cast long shadows through my storefront windows that everything changed. I was hand-stitching pearls onto a bodice, my fingers cramping from the delicate work when I reached for the radio. The silence was becoming too heavy, too full of my own doubts and fears. That's when I heard her voice. Good evening, night owls. This is Riley Rogers, and you're listening to After Midnight Confessions on KWNR. Tonight, we're talking about second chances. You know, those moments when life throws you a curveball, and suddenly you're standing at a crossroads you never saw coming. Her voice was like warm honey smooth, rich, with just a hint of raspiness that suggested she'd lived a little. I found myself setting down my needle, actually listening for the first time in months. I had a caller earlier who asked me if it's ever too late to start over, Riley continued. And you know what I told her? I said, honey, the sun rises every single day. Every morning is a second chance. Something about those words hit me right in the chest. Here I was, surrounded by symbols of new beginnings, wedding dresses, veils, dreams stitched in silk and satin, and I'd forgotten that I could have one. 2. Before I could talk myself out of it, I was dialing the station. KWNR, you're on with Riley? Hi, My voice cracked. God, when was the last time I'd actually talked to someone who wasn't a supplier or a difficult client? I'm sorry. I don't usually call radio shows. That's okay, sweetheart. What's your name? Claire. Well, Claire, what's on your mind tonight? I looked around my shop at the half-finished dresses hanging like ghosts, at the stack of unpaid bills on my desk, at my reflection in the darkened window. I guess I'm wondering if you can have a second chance when you're not even sure what your first chance was supposed to be. Riley's laugh was soft, understanding. That's a beautiful question, Claire. Tell me more. And somehow I did. I told this stranger on the radio about my boutique, about the divorce, about feeling like I was sleepwalking through my own life. I didn't mention Marcus by name or go into details. But there was something about Riley's voice that made confession feel safe. You know what I think, Claire? Riley said after I'd finished. I think you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Sometimes we have to lose ourselves completely before we can find out who we really are. After the show ended, I sat in my empty boutique, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. It was fragile, tentative, but it was there. The next night, I found myself tuning in again, and the night after that. Riley's show became my companion during those long hours of sewing and designing. She had this way of making every caller feel heard, understood, valued. I started calling in regularly, and somehow, impossibly, we developed what felt like a friendship. Claire from the boutique, she'd say when I called, and I could hear the smile in her voice. How are those wedding dresses coming along? We talk about everything: business struggles, creative blocks, the weird satisfaction of hand-stitching a perfect seam. Riley told me about her journey in radio, how she'd started as a shy intern and worked her way up to hosting her own show. She understood the loneliness of late-night work, the pressure of being your own boss, the fear that maybe you're not cut out for the dreams you're chasing. 3 weeks into our radio friendship, Riley made a suggestion that changed everything. You know, Claire, I've been thinking. Your boutique sounds amazing, but how are people supposed to find you if you're tucked away working all night? Have you considered social media? I laughed. I can barely manage a sewing machine some days, and you want me to figure out Instagram? What if I helped you? I mean, not professionally or anything, but I'd love to see your work. Maybe we could grab coffee sometime. I promise I'm less intimidating in person than I sound on the radio. My heart did this weird little flutter. In the 6 months since my divorce, I hadn't socialized with anyone. The idea of meeting Riley face to face was terrifying and thrilling in equal measure. I'd like that, I said, surprising myself. We met at a little cafe downtown on a Thursday afternoon. I closed the boutique early, which felt like rebellion. After months of never taking breaks, I was nervous. What if we didn't click in person? What if the magic was just in the late night radio calls? But then I saw her. Riley was sitting by the window, sunlight catching the auburn highlights in her dark hair. She was smaller than I'd imagined, maybe 5'4" to my 5'7", but there was something magnetic about her presence. When she smiled and waved me over, those same warm tones from her radio voice carried into her laugh. Claire. Oh, my God, you're even more beautiful than I imagined. I blushed, actually blushed like a teenager. You imagined what I look like? Are you kidding? After all our conversations, of course I did. She gestured for me to sit. I have to admit, I pictured someone older. You can't be more than 35. 42, I said, settling into the chair across from her. Well, damn. Good genes. There was something in the way she looked. At me, warm, appreciative, but not in the way Marcus used to look at me, like I was a possession. Riley looked at me like I was interesting, like I mattered. We talked for 3 hours, about everything and nothing. She showed me pictures from her travels. Riley had been all over the world before settling into radio. I showed her photos of my recent work on my phone, watching her face light up as she scrolled through images of intricate beadwork and flowing trains. Claire, these are incredible, like seriously incredible. You're not just making wedding dresses, you're creating art. They're just dresses, I said, but I was glowing under her praise. No, they're not. Look at this one. She held up a photo of a dress I'd spent weeks on, a vintage-inspired piece with hand-sewn lace and pearl detailing. This is a masterpiece. You should be charging 10 times what you probably are. That's when Riley really got into her social media idea. She was passionate, animated, gesturing with her coffee cup as she explained hashtags and story features and something called influencer partnerships. What if I featured your boutique on my show? I mean, a lot of my listeners are women, many of them engaged or getting married. And if we could get some of these photos online? Riley, I appreciate the offer, but I can't afford to pay. Who said anything about paying? She leaned forward, her eyes bright with excitement. I think you're incredibly talented, and I think you deserve to succeed. Let me help. Something shifted in that moment. The way she said, let me help, wasn't condescending or pitying. It was jarring, like she genuinely wanted good things for me. Why? I asked. Why would you do that for someone you barely know? Riley was quiet for a moment, turning her coffee cup in her hands. Can I be honest with you? I nodded. I've been doing this radio show for 5 years. I talk to a lot of people, hear a lot of stories, but when you first called in, there was something about your voice, your story, that just stuck with me. You're not just surviving, Claire. You're creating beauty in the middle of chaos. That's rare. I felt tears prick my eyes. When was the last time someone had seen me that way? That afternoon marked the beginning of everything. Riley wasn't just talking about business partnerships. She became my business partner, my friend, I'm getting ahead of myself again. She started featuring my boutique on her radio show, telling listeners about the incredibly talented local designer who creates one-of-a-kind wedding gowns. She helped me set up Instagram and Facebook accounts, teaching me about lighting and angles for photographing my work. Within 2 weeks, I had my first inquiry from someone who'd heard about me on the radio. Her name was Jessica, and she wanted something unique and romantic for her beach wedding. I spent hours sketching designs, creating something flowing and ethereal with delicate beading that would catch the ocean breeze. When Jessica came in for her first fitting, she brought her fiancé, and they both cried when she tried on the dress. It's perfect, Jessica whispered, staring at herself in the mirror. It's exactly what I dreamed of. That night, I called Riley to tell her about the successful fitting. I'm so proud of you, she said, and something in her voice made my chest tight with emotion. You're amazing, Claire. I hope you're starting to see that. I couldn't have done this without you. Yes, you could have. You just needed someone to remind you how incredible you are. The compliments were getting more personal, I noticed. More intimate. and I found myself looking forward to our coffee. Dates which had become a twice-weekly tradition with an anticipation that felt suspiciously like attraction. But that was impossible. I wasn't gay. I'd been married to a man for 15 years. I'd never even considered. Except I was considering it. Late at night, sewing in my boutique while Riley's voice filled the space, I'd catch myself wondering what it would be like to kiss her. What her hands would feel like on my skin instead of Marcus's. The realization terrified me. 2 months after our first coffee date, business was actually picking up. Riley's promotion had worked. I had 3 commission dresses in progress. And 2 more consultations scheduled. For the first time since the divorce, I could see light at the end of the financial tunnel. That's when Sophia walked into my boutique. She was stunning in that effortless way some women manage, tall, blonde, with the kind of confidence that fills a room. She wanted a dress for her wedding in 6 weeks, something show-stopping and elegant. I heard about you on Riley Rogers' show, she said, and my heart did a little skip at the mention of Riley's name. She made you sound like a miracle worker. Riley's been incredibly supportive, I said, pulling out my portfolio. What kind of style are you envisioning? Sophia flipped through my designs with the focused attention of someone who knew exactly what she wanted. She was getting married. At a vineyard, she explained. Outdoor ceremony, upscale reception. Her fiancé came from money, and she wanted something that would photograph beautifully. This one, she said, pointing to a design I'd sketched but never made a fitted mermaid. Silhouette with intricate lace overlay and a dramatic train. But I want the neckline lower and maybe some being through the bodice. It was an ambitious project for a 6-week timeline, but I needed the money, and honestly, I was excited by the challenge. Sophia came in for fittings twice a week. She was easy to work with, decisive about changes, patient with the process, and she tipped well. But there was something about her that made me slightly uncomfortable, though I couldn't put my finger on what. It wasn't until the 4th fitting that I understood. I was kneeling on the floor, pinning the hem of her dress, when she said, "So, you and Riley Rogers seem pretty close." I looked up, startled. "We're friends. She's been incredibly helpful with my business." Sophia was watching me in the mirror. "She talks about you a lot on her show. Almost like she has a little crush." My cheeks burned. "I think she's just being supportive of local businesses, right?" Sophia's smile was knowing, predatory. "Well, you should be careful. Riley has a reputation." "What do you mean?" "Let's just say she's known for getting close to the women she features on her show, then moving on when something newer and shinier comes along." I felt sick. "I don't think that's... Look, I'm not trying to be mean. I just think you seem really sweet, and I'd hate to see you get hurt. Riley's been with a lot of women in this city. She's not exactly the settling down type." The implication hit me like a physical blow. Riley was gay, which I'd somehow never considered, despite the growing feelings I'd been trying to ignore. And according to Sophia, she was a player who used her radio show to meet women. Was that what was happening between us? Was I just another naive listener who'd gotten swept up in Riley's charm? For the rest of the fitting, I was quiet, professional. Sophia chatted about her wedding plans, but all I could think about was every interaction I'd had with Riley. Had I misread everything? Was the warmth in her voice, the personal compliments, the way she looked at me, was it all just her standard routine? That night, I didn't tune into Riley's show. For the first time in months, I worked in silence, my thoughts churning as I hand-stitched Sophia's beading. Riley called the next day. "Hey, stranger, missed you on the show last night." "Everything okay?" Her voice was warm, concerned, and I hated how much I'd missed hearing it. "Just busy with orders," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "That's great. Listen, I was thinking there's this wedding expo next weekend. What if we got you a booth? I could help you set up, maybe do some live promotion." It was a generous offer, too generous for just a friend helping a business. "Riley, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "How many other women have you helped this way? With their businesses, I mean?" There was a pause. "What do you mean?" "I mean, is this something you do regularly? Help women you meet through your show?" Claire ... Her voice was careful now. "Where is this coming from? Just answer the question." Another pause. "No, you're the first person I've ever done anything like this for." "The only person? Why? Because ... I could hear her take a breath. "Because I care about you more than I probably should." My heart was pounding. What does that mean? "It means I think I'm falling in love with you, and I have no idea if you could ever feel the same way about me. The world tilted. Riley was in love with me. With me. Claire, are you there? I'm here, I whispered. I know this is probably a shock. I know you were married to a man, and maybe you've never thought about women that way. But I have, I interrupted. Been thinking about it, about you. Really? I could hear the hope in her voice, and it broke something open in my chest. Really, I've been terrified about it, but yeah. Would you maybe want to have dinner? Like an actual date? I thought about Sophia's warnings, about Riley's supposed reputation. But looking around my boutique at the thriving business, at the dresses that represented hope and new beginnings, at the life I was building with Riley's support and encouragement, I realized I trusted what I had experienced more than I trusted gossip. I'd love that. Our first date was a small Italian restaurant tucked away in the arts district. Riley wore a simple black dress that hugged her curves, and I found myself nervous in a way I hadn't been since high school. This wasn't just coffee between friends. This was uncharted territory. You look beautiful, Riley said when I arrived, and the way she said it made my knees weak. Over dinner, we talked about things we'd never covered in our radio conversations or coffee meetings. Riley told me about coming out in college, about the fear and freedom of accepting who she was. I told her about the growing realization that my marriage to Marcus had never felt quite right, that I'd spent years trying to be someone I wasn't. I don't know if I'm gay, I admitted. I don't know what I am. I just know that being around you feels more real than anything I've felt in years. Riley reached across the table and took my hand. You don't have to have it all figured out. We can take this as slow as you need. But when she walked me to my car after dinner, when she cupped my face in her hands and asked if she could kiss me, slow was the last thing on my mind. Her lips were soft, warm, perfect. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, but when I responded, when I pressed closer and deepened the kiss, Riley made this little sound that sent heat shooting through my body. Wow, I breathed when we broke apart. Yeah, wow, Riley agreed, her forehead resting against mine. We started seeing each other regularly after that. Real dates, dinners, movies, long walks through the city. Riley was patient with my uncertainty, never pushing for more than I was ready to give. But the attraction between us was undeniable, electric. Every touch, every kiss left me wanting more. It was Sophia's final fitting that changed everything. She came in on a Tuesday afternoon, her dress complete except for final adjustments. I'd outdone myself. The gown was stunning, elegant, exactly what she'd envisioned. Sophia looked like a queen as she stood in front of the three-way mirror in my fitting room. It's perfect, she said, turning to admire the way the train flowed behind her. Absolutely perfect. I'm so glad you love it, I said, kneeling too. Make a tiny adjustment to the hem. You're going to be a beautiful bride. About that, Sophia said, and something in her tone made me look up. I should probably mention that I know Riley personally. My stomach dropped. Oh, we dated. For about 8 months last year. Sophia's smile was sharp. I'm the ex-girlfriend she probably hasn't mentioned. I stood slowly, my hands shaking. I see. Riley has a pattern, Claire. She finds these sweet, vulnerable women, usually through her show, and she sweeps them off their feet. Makes them feel special, unique. Helps them with their little projects. Sophia turned to face me fully. Sound familiar? You don't know what you're talking about, don't I? How long have you two been together? A couple months? Has she told you she loves you yet? Made you feel like you're the only woman who's ever mattered to her? Every word was hitting its mark, and Sophia knew it. Riley's good at making women fall for her, really good. But when things get serious, when they start talking about moving in together or meeting her family, she gets bored. Finds reasons to pull away. Why are you telling me this? I asked, though I already knew. Because I like you, Claire. You seem genuine, sweet. And I think you deserve to know what you're getting into before you get hurt. Sophia stepped closer, still wearing my creation, still looking like a vision in white lace and silk. Besides, she said softly, I've been watching you work these past few weeks. The passion you put into your designs, the way you create beauty with your hands, it's incredibly attractive. Before I could react, Sophia was unbuttoning my blouse. Her fingers were quick, confident, and I was too shocked to stop her. Sophia, what are you? She pressed a finger to my lips. You've been working so hard, taking care of everyone else. When's the last time someone took care of you? Her hands were on my skin now, sliding the fabric off my shoulders. I should have stopped her. I should have pulled away, told her to leave, defended Riley. But her touch felt good after weeks of sexual tension with Riley that we'd never fully acted on. And the doubt her words had planted was spreading through my chest like poison. Maybe this was who I really was. Maybe I wasn't gay, wasn't in love with Riley. Maybe I was just confused, lonely, grateful for attention. Sophia kissed me, and I let her. Her lips were different from Riley's, more demanding, less gentle. When she pressed me back against the wall of the fitting room, when her hands found the clasp of my bra, I didn't resist. It was when she whispered, "You're so much more beautiful than Riley described," that reality crashed back in. I pushed her away hard. "Get out, Claire, get out." I was shaking, fury and shame warring in my chest. "Get your dress and get out of my store." Sophia straightened her hair, smug and unbothered. "You should thank me. I just saved you months of heartbreak." After she left, I locked the door and sank to the floor of my fitting room, surrounded by the mirrors that had just witnessed my betrayal. What had I done? How had I let her manipulate me like that? But more importantly, how much of what she'd said was true? I didn't call Riley that night, or the next night. When she called me, I let it go to voicemail. I couldn't face her, couldn't look her in the eye knowing what I'd done, what I doubted. On the third day, Riley showed up at my boutique. "Claire, what's going on? You've been avoiding me for days." She looked worried, hurt, and seeing her face made my chest ache with guilt. "I think we should talk," I said quietly. I locked the door behind her and led her to the back room, away from the windows where anyone might see us. Riley sat on my sewing chair, and I perched on the edge of my cutting table, unable to meet her eyes. Did I do something wrong? She asked, because if I pushed too hard or moved too fast, tell me about Sophia. Riley went very still. "What about Sophia? Were you together?" "Last year?" A long pause. "Yes." "For how long?" "About 8 months." "And how did it end?" Riley sighed, running her hands through her hair. "Not well. She wanted to move in together. And I wasn't ready. We wanted different things." "What kind of different things? Claire, why are you asking about this? What did Sophia say to you? Just answer the question." Riley stood up, started pacing my small workspace. She wanted commitment, marriage, kids, the whole picture. And I thought I wanted that too, but when it came down to it, I realized I didn't love her enough, not the way she deserved. "How many other women have there been? Other women you've helped through your show?" "I told you none. You're the only one." "But there have been other women, other relationships." "Of course, there have been. I'm 34 years old, Claire. I've dated people, but I've never felt about anyone the way I feel about you. How do I know that's true? How do I know you won't get bored with me the way you got bored with Sophia?" Riley stopped pacing and stared at me. "Is that what she told you? That I got bored?" I didn't answer, but my silence was confirmation enough. "Claire, I broke up with Sophia because I realized I was trying to force something that wasn't there. We weren't compatible, not really. She wanted a trophy wife, someone to look good at business events, and give her beautiful children. I wanted ... Riley sat down across from me. "I wanted what I have with you. Someone who challenges me, inspires me, makes me want to be better. You barely know me. I've been talking to you almost every night for months. I know that you hum when you're concentrating. I know that you worry about disappointing people even when they don't deserve your consideration. I know that you see beauty in everything, in fabric, in light, in broken things that other people would throw away." Riley leaned forward. "I know that you kiss me like you're drowning and I'm air." Tears were starting to fall down my cheeks. "Sophia kissed me." Riley went very quiet. "What?" "During her final fitting. She told me about your pattern, about how you seduce vulnerable women and then leave them. And then she unbuttoned my shirt and I let her. I didn't stop her until it was too late." Riley was silent for a long moment, and I couldn't read her expression. "Did you want her to kiss you?" she finally asked. "No, maybe, I don't know." I wiped my eyes. I was confused and hurt, and she was there, and Claire, Riley's voice was gentle. "Look at me." I forced myself to meet her eyes. "Sophia is my ex for a reason. She's manipulative, jealous, and she doesn't like to lose. If she kissed you, it wasn't because she wanted you. It was because she wanted to hurt me. But what if she's right? What if you do get bored with me?" Riley stood up and crossed to where I was sitting. She cupped my face in her hands, forcing me to look at her. I can't promise you that will work out forever. Nobody can promise that. But I can promise you that what I feel for you isn't boredom or pity or some pattern I'm following. It's love. Real, terrifying, life-changing love. How can you be sure? Because loving you makes me want to be the kind of person who deserves you. Because when I think about my future, you're in it. Because I've never felt so much like myself as I do when I'm with you. Riley kissed me then, soft and sweet and full of forgiveness. When we broke apart, she rested her forehead against mine. I don't care that Sophia kissed you. I care that she made you doubt us, doubt yourself. Don't let her win, Claire. Don't let her take away something real because she couldn't handle that I chose you over her. You chose me. Every day, every moment, I choose you. That night, we made love for the first time. Not in my boutique, but in Riley's apartment, surrounded by books and plants and the soft glow of string lights. She was patient, gentle, attentive to every response, every sound I made. When I touched her, when I made her gasp and arch beneath my hands, I felt powerful in a way I never had with Marcus. This was different. This was choosing, being chosen, giving and receiving in equal measure. Afterward, we lay tangled in her sheets, and I traced patterns on her bare shoulder. I love you too, I whispered into the darkness. I know, Riley said, and I could hear her smile. I was just waiting for you to figure it out. 3 months later, my boutique was thriving. Riley's continued promotion on her show, combined with social media presence and word of mouth, had brought me more business than I'd ever imagined. I'd hired an assistant, a young fashion student named Maya who had incredible attention to detail, and we were booked solid through the following spring. But success brought its own challenges. The local bridal industry was small, and not everyone was happy about my sudden rise. There were whispers that I was getting unfair promotion, that my relationship with Riley constituted some kind of media manipulation. A few established designers made pointed comments about newcomers who don't understand the business. The criticism stung, especially because part of me wondered if there was truth to it. Would I have succeeded without Riley's help? Was my talent real, or was I just benefiting from my girlfriend's platform? Riley, meanwhile, was dealing with her own professional challenges. Her station manager had heard rumors about her personal life and expressed concern about conflicts of interest in her promotion of local businesses. There was pressure to disclose our relationship on air or to stop featuring my boutique on her show. It's not fair, Riley said one evening as we sat in my kitchen sharing takeout Chinese food. I've never hidden the fact that I support local businesses. Half the sponsors on my show are places I featured organically first. Maybe I should pull back, I said. Stop the promotion, let you focus on your career without this complication. Riley set down her chopsticks and stared at me. Is that what you think this is, a complication? I think it's affecting your job. My job is talking to people, Claire. Connecting with the community. You and your boutique are part of this community. I'm not going to pretend you don't exist to make some narrow-minded executives comfortable. But the pressure was getting to both of us. We started fighting more small disagreements that escalated into larger arguments about priorities, about sacrifice, about what we owed each other versus what we owed our careers. The breaking point came when Sophia's wedding photos appeared. In the local society magazine. She looked stunning, of course. My dress photographed beautifully against the vineyard backdrop, the lace and beading catching the golden hour light perfectly. The photographer had captured every detail I'd agonized over, every hand-sewn embellishment. But the caption made my blood run cold. Bride Sophia Matthews wore a custom gown by Eternal Elegance. The boutique featured regularly on KWNR's After Midnight Confessions radio show. The implication was clear that I'd used my relationship with Riley to gain publicity, even from clients who betrayed me.